Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast. Well, I'm David Staples of the Edmonton, and I'm Bruce McCurdy, who's having a paper malfunction or some sort, I guess, right?
Paper Chase.
Paper Chase. What a great TV show that was.
Yeah. It was our mandatory 1970s pop culture reference.
You come with a mind full of mush, and you leave thinking like a lawyer. Bruce, no show prepared me for university more than the Paper Chase. I was scared, crapless, going to university that was going to be this incredibly difficult thing. And it wasn't as difficult as the Paper Chase made out, but that was a fantastic show. All right. The Oilers, 2-1 victors over the Vancouver Canucks, and quite I think, a strong performance by Edmonton. By our grade A shot count, which is a little bit preliminary, but we have it at, what is it, 17 or 16-7?
Yeah, there's one chance that's kind of questionable that I'll need you to vet.
Yeah.
But I did the first period before David got home from his hockey, and I had the chances that period of 7-0 for Edmonton. So maybe I'm biased. But I thought Edmonton really had the better of the first period. Vancouver had some chances, but their shots weren't on the net, you know.
They weren't all night, Bruce. All night.
And that's how we count chances. So
yeah, I got screwed up with my what is it? It's not VCR, it's PVR. PVR tonight, and so I'm going, having not seen the first period. I need to. So I did see the second two periods, and I watched Fogel's goal, of course, as well. But I'm going to go back later and review the first period because I'll be able to tape the game. Anyway, Bruce,
they'll rebroadcast it in the overnight hours. I'm thinking that's what they usually do.
Yeah, hopefully. So, just a strong performance from Oilers, and we'll just dive right in here. Two good things, two bad things, and Two Numbers podcast. Oilers win means two good things each. What's your first good thing?
Well, 2 points and a 2-1 win with the power play going 2 for 2. I think I have to go with the power play. Edmonton Oilers devastating power play that has scored in every game this year and has scored 2 goals in 4 of the games and 1 each in the other 3. So 11 power play goals on the season. And in many Edmonton wins this season, including tonight's, the power play was the difference. And tonight they got a rare goal from the second unit with Warren Foegele scoring with 1 second left in the first power play as the second unit came on and did what the second unit rarely has done in past years. In the last 2 years, David, by my count, the Oilers scored 99 power plays, and 94 of them were scored with Leon Draisaitl on the ice. So that's my definition of the first unit. And he played, 80% of the minutes, but 95% of the goals. The second unit has not been effective. But they got a decent shot towards the net. It got deflected on the way in, and Warren Foegele went to the dirty area near the edge of the crease, and he got leverage, got his feet down, and he overpowered both the goalie and the Vancouver defensemen that were kind of diving for the rebound, and Foegele just powered it home. So that's a bonus power play. You don't expect too many power play goals from Warren Foegele, but we'll sure take that one. And then they got one more power play late in the second period, and they scored in a more traditional fashion. First of all, with Draisaitl getting set up by McDavid and getting robbed by Zach Hyman, who had his skate just inside the post where the puck was going, with all the Vancouver players beaten. And hit Hyman's skate and went out. I don't know if we should call that a chance or not, because Hyman was the guy.
Didn't.
It was a block shot on the goal
block
line.
Shot by the Oilers. If it hits an Oiler in front of the net. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a sure goal that didn't happen, but no matter, maybe 20, 30 seconds later, they do it again with McDavid getting a secondary assist when his block shot went right to Nugent Hopkins, and Nuge did exactly what he did in the same situation in Las Vegas last week. Right from the slot, he jumped on a loose puck and immediately passed it off to Leon Draisaitl at the bottom of the right circle. Leon pounded it home the way Leon typically does. And that turned out, in the end, it made it 2-0, gave the Oilers some breathing room, and in the end, they needed it. That was the game winner.
Yeah, the Hyman block, like I kind of changed my nomenclature for our describing things. I call them grade A shots now rather than grade A chances because shots are on net, and that didn't hit the net because it was blocked by an order. So it was definitely like, people would get a hop. Like, how could that not be a chance? How is that not an
Yeah,
opportunity? It obviously was. So I'm just
yeah.
calling them grade A shots now.
And
Um,
we do count posts, just that,
we
and
do count
very,
posts.
very rarely when the defenseman makes a goal line save that where the goalie's beaten and the
Yeah.
defenseman of the other team does a Hyman.
Fogel, I'm liking Fogel
Hmm.
a lot.
Played a strong game, didn't
He
he?
is a powerful guy out there on the ice. He's kind of
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like, kind of a cross between Shane Corson and Bob Nystrom. I don't know if he's quite at that level, but he's a good player and he's a power forward, and the Oilers needed a player like that. So I'm liking what I see from Fogel. And of course, Nuge is leading the league in assists for a reason, right? Like, there's nothing better than setting up 10. Yeah, nothing better than setting up Leon Draisaitl for the executioner's shot, Bruce. Bruce, years from now,
Hmm.
when we might not remember much else, about the Oilers of this time. Of course, some people have better memories like you
Speak
than
for
others.
yourself, David.
Yeah. Um, that image of Draisaitl scything in the puck from
Oh
that
yeah.
spot will be,
Hmm.
it's just such an iconic moment. And the other one, of course, is McDavid on the rush. Those two things are the I think what defines, like, it's like the Gretzky to Curry for the one timer. And maybe, I don't know, with Messier it's and Anderson it's a little different, but I always remember their famous play where Messier would go around behind the net and then drop it back to Anderson, who was coming in on his trail and his jet stream or his wake, and would slam it in the net. Maybe that's not as quite as up there with the Gretzky to Curry one timer. I mean, and the Paul Coffey rush would be another one, the Fear save, but that shot from Draisaitl is it's just such an unforgettable sight, and they know it's coming, but they cannot stop it. Bruce, my good thing is Evan Bouchard. Um, I don't know if it's too early to say he's cemented into the top pairing, but man, he is playing well. He is playing well in the top pairing. He's so calm with the puck. He makes such great decisions with the puck. I don't know if there's an Edmonton Oiler who makes better decisions with the puck than uh, than Bouchard consistently. Like, he's just not turnover prone, and he he's handling it so well. So, and just a few examples here. What's this? This looks like he really came alive in the third period. McDavid popped the puck out into the slot, and Hyman managed to tip it over to Bouchard. And this just immediately, Bouchard makes the beautiful return pass to Hyman, who then finds McDavid down low for the first of a number of five-alarm chances that he had on Thatcher Demko,
Hmm.
who just robbed McDavid. A little bit later, what do we got here? Bouchard wins battle. Turris baps it ahead. Oh yeah, this is in the neutral zone. The Canucks are coming down, and Bouchard just steals the puck cleanly, moves it ahead, and Turris baps it ahead, and McDavid's in on a breakaway. So, and a moment after that, he takes an outside shot, which Nurse tips on net for a dangerous chance. He is, you know, when you draft a defenseman 10th overall or whatever it was, what was it? Was it 10th? You're That's a coin flip. It's about half the time, maybe less than half the time, he's going to be a good NHL player. Half the time he's going to not be a good player at all. And for a defenseman like this, if he does become this number one D man, which he is becoming before our eyes, top pairing D man at least. Um, I mean, I wouldn't
Right.
mind, like, at this point, if Nurse and Bouchard were teamed on Team Canada in at the Olympics, Bruce, it wouldn't be a terrible idea. Like, there's worse ideas than that. That could help Canada win a gold medal. That's how well Evan Bouchard's playing right now. He's just killing it. So he's my good thing.
Okay. He certainly had a strong game, and the Oilers dominated the puck possession and the shot shares tonight. Uh, According to Natural Stat Trick, which clearly has a sense of humor, Bouchard had a Korsky of 27 for and 14 against, and a Fensky of 24 and 9 against. They actually used Dave Staple or David Tippett's
Tippett.
terminology in their game summary at Natural Stat Trick.
I saw that. That was
they've
really
got
sweet.
Korsky and Fensky. It was pretty funny. And the shot share for Bouchard was 14 for, 6 against in actual shots on goal. So Edmonton dominated the action when Bouchard and Nurse had very similar numbers as well. In fact, slightly better for Nurse. And they were in control for most of the time that they were on the ice. Didn't give up a whole lot, eh?
Pardon me?
They didn't give up a whole lot.
They didn't, Bruce. They're shutting it down. They're really good together. They get the puck out of their end. I mean, it's classic hockey where the best defense is a good offense. Win the puck back and get going in the other direction. And they can do that because, I mean, Bouchard's he's an extraordinary puck mover. I think it's as simple as that. I mean, we've been watching this for some time now. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop and something bad to happen here and him to regress. And it probably will, right? He probably will have a defensive slump. But he's really playing well now. What's your second good thing, Bruce?
Well, I got to go with Conor McDavid. I thought he was fantastic for most of the part in this game. And unbelievable that it was the first time he was held below 2 points all year. But to me, this was maybe his best game in the year so far.
Agreed.
Maybe the hat-trick game against Calgary, but I think tonight he was more consistently of a force. And in the third period, he threatened just to take over the game with, I'm sure he had 5 shots. He had 6 shots in the third period, and I'm sure that 5 of them were from inside of 10 feet. Like he was just surging right through the defense, couple breakaways. He had that one sequence where he had the 3 jam plays from basically inside the blue paint. And he just couldn't solve Thatcher Demko, who is an excellent goalie. That guy's going to be giving us trouble for years. But tonight, Connor couldn't quite solve Demko, but he sure could solve the Canucks because he was getting behind them with regularity and making things happen. There was also an amazing play where he intercepted a pass, and every player in the league, with a small number of exceptions, would have had absolute tunnel vision for the net after the turnover. And he saw Jesse Puljujarvi over there, and he pulled it back to him, and Puljujarvi rang a shot. Got a bullet one-timer off, but he had half the net to shoot at, and he cut it too fine and rang it off the post. This was in the first period, but
I missed that one.
It was quite a quite a sequence. Puljujarvi was mad at himself, and not without cause, because he really should have scored there. Like, he did have a lot of net to shoot at, and he cut it too fine. But McDavid set him up as sweet as can be, and I just thought he skated well, and he made things happen. He was strong in the face-off dot, 7 for 11, 64%, and he was a very strong performer, very like Edmonton's leader in this game. Even though I don't think he got named second star. There you go, the 2 goalies and him. So
there you go. You're going to have to look at our scoring chance chart, Bruce, because on Puljujarvi's shot on the first there, you don't have McDavid making a major contribution.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's he most definitely did. And there was, at first, I was just trying to get the numbers of the guys who were taking.
Sure, I'll just add that in there. So when you're doing your game grades, you get him as he had 7 major contributions.
97 for pass. Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. We like to tidy these things up because we are obsessive.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Record keepers and completionists. It's something that Bruce and I have in common is the completionist streak. All right. My next good thing is Cody Sisi. And Bruce, I've said this before. I came into the season with great trepidation. I've just been really pleasantly surprised by the guy's game. He's not a perfect defenseman, but he's a pretty good top 4 D-man. That's what I'd say right now. That's my impression of him after this is 7 games and a number of preseason games. So I've seen him in a decent run of games to have I guess a solid first impression. We'll be updating this as the year goes along, but he moves the puck well. He defends well. He's fairly physical. He doesn't make terrible mistakes that have me, I can pull my hair out, but something like that. Bash my head against the wall, break a clipboard, perhaps. I'm not seeing that. I don't see that with Sisi. I like his game. I do. That's just as simple as that. I don't know if that's a popular or unpopular thing. I'm not really monitoring what other fans think of him, or if there's a gang of people who hate him or whatever.
He's
But
got
I
a
don't.
bad contract, David. That was decided the day he signed it.
Oh, I
He's got a
see.
bad contract, David.
Well, that's my fear too, Bruce. I had the same fear, like honestly, but I'm not seeing like it's looking like, hey,
He looks like an
this.
NHL D-man to me.
So and again, we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah.
the one thing I would add, and said this before too, but he is of that age, right? That sweet spot, 25, 26, 27. I think he's 27,
Yep.
where these guys often figure it out, and they have 2 or 3 or 4 really good years. So maybe this is going to be it with Sisi. Maybe he's going to come through. I've liked him better than Duncan Keith. I mean, I haven't hated Duncan Keith. I've been okay on Duncan Keith. I think he's made too many defensive mistakes. I'm a little worried about him on defense. But I've liked Sisi better. I think he's the more solid of the two right now because he plays a better all-around game. And good for him.
Yep. No argument on Sisi. He had a solid game, and he was.
They got out Korski'd, but they did outshoot them. And I really, well, if we're gonna go on these on ice stats, I just like to pare it down to shots on, like, where he outshot when he was on the ice or not. That's my preference if you're gonna go. So he and Keith outshot, I believe, the opponents when they were on the ice. If I'm not mistaken about that. So.
Well, Keith blocked 6 shots. So that's going to take care of the Korski in a big hurry. If the defenseman's making the saves before they even reach the goalie, then it's hard to dump too hard on the defenseman for getting out Korski'd.
I really like Tippett's comment about stats for one reason. I thought he made a really interesting comment that he considers, and I don't know like if he was exaggerating or not, but he considers 10 shots on game a turnover. And I really thought that was fascinating. And I hope that a reporter picks that up and explores that with him. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what shots are you talking about? What kinds of shots? What's the category? Because I think if we started to look hard for what he's talking about, we could start to identify it. But it's not something that I've heard before very much about shots on net. There's a lot of people who really, they love shots on net. I remember, Babcock, he was always one of those shots on net. He pass it around, then pass it to the goalie is the way he put it, because there was going to be a rebound. So that notion, though, that Tippett seems to be seeing things a little bit differently, and worth digging into to find out exactly what that is, what he's talking about. Do you have any theories what he's talking about?
I've heard coaches say that before, that a shot is, you're giving up possession. If you make a bunch of passes and you shoot the puck, you're giving up possession. I mean, maybe you get it back on the rebound or, on the puck recovery, and maybe you don't. And oftentimes, a whole possession ends with an unsuccessful shot on goal that then the puck proceeds in the other direction. And of course, if it's a good shot, then it's worth it. But if it's a shot that's not apt to beat an NHL goalie, I can understand why a coach would get frustrated with such shots.
It's like when the Oilers have these great offensive zone sequences, and then let's not pick on any player, but like Chris Russell takes a shot from outside, and it's a really weak shot, and you just think, why did you shoot?
Nurse used to do that a lot.
A few years ago, like he'd be the last guy with the shot, and it would be like, why did you shoot? Like, just keep it going. And I know like the temptation is there to shoot, and you're supposed to shoot, but that's probably what he does mean. I that's one of these situations probably. We're on to bad things. What's your bad thing, Bruce?
It's just a little thing, really little tonight. It's so little it weighs 153 pounds, but it's just one play by the lightest Oiler, Kyler Yamamoto. And it was he had an okay game.
Yeah.
But there was a play where Leon set him up, and he had a quick opening to shoot the darn puck, and he didn't shoot the darn puck. He held on to the puck, never did get a shot away, and in fact, he never had a shot attempt on net in the entire game. And it's a little bit, that was to me mindset. Like, you got to be prepared for Leon to put the puck on your tape once in a while, and you got to be prepared to do something with the puck when you get it put on your tape by Leon, because he usually finds you in a good spot, which he did on this play. And there was this little moment of hesitation, and the gap closed just as quickly as it opened, and it turned into nothing. And so my minor criticism, because I don't have a lot of bad things from that game, obviously, but my minor criticism is, bear down and make turn those looks into shots. And that was just.
Go ahead, sorry.
Just the one play, and otherwise he didn't really get any looks. But that was the time he had a look, and he just kind of froze, and it turned into nothing.
Yeah, it must just be eating him alive. This player who has been a dynamic scorer at every level of hockey, including the NHL in his first year, and have another 0-0-0 night
with 0 shot attempts.
Yeah, and he just 2 years ago, like Draisaitl was insisting that he play with Kailer Yamamoto. Like that was the bottom line. If he couldn't play with McDavid, he wanted to play with Yamamoto, and you could see such magic there, and it really was working. And Yamamoto has lost a little bit of offensive jam. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I really like him though, Bruce, and I know that he's getting a lot of criticism right now. He's like, some people say replace him in the top 6. I really like his defensive game. I think Conor Yamamoto is a stellar defensive hockey player. He's very smart, and he covers. That's why he's on the PK. You got a 5'6" guy on the PK. He must have something going for him, because it's not reach. And I think he reads the game extremely well defensively, and that's one of the reasons probably Draisaitl likes to play with him. He's a very dependable player in that regard. So I have a little bit more time for Kailer Yamamoto in the top 6, even when he's not scoring, because I do see him as a glue player, right? This is what glue players do. They keep things going, and he does it.
And let's not forget, he drew the penalty that led to the winning goal tonight, and he does draw penalties. He takes penalties, but he draws more. And he just, because he keeps his feet moving. He gets involved in the battle. He keeps his feet moving. And he does, he often does get physically overpowered. And if he goes down, the arm is apt to go up. And tonight he took a high stick, if you can call a stick, 5'7" off the ice, a high stick. But he did get clubbed right in the side of the helmet, and the ref called it, and the power play executed. So you always got to give, to me, the power play scores, one little bit of credit goes. In fact, we used to do this, credit the guy who drew the penalty. But it's kind of random, because you draw
it's
5 penalties and one power play goal gets scored. But it's anyway, he did do that, so he gets a plus mark for that.
My bad thing, Bruce, is Koskinen's shutout evaporating with 5 seconds left in quite a weird play. Vancouver had some great chances to score just before then. One where Koskinen kind of lost the net a little bit and came sliding over and made a Hail Mary stop. And then another where he, quite a spectacular save where he moved quickly. I think it was to stop Miller, if I'm not mistaken, a Miller blast.
Yeah.
And so 2 fabulous saves. Koskinen, the 9-meter man, he had a good game, obviously. He's a little awkward. He's a little awkward in the net at times. On the wraparound, they're looking at the wraparound for Mikko. I think they've figured out that that's something that you can work on with this guy, and he's going to have to be aware of that, because they almost got him a couple times. Anyway, he played a good game. There wasn't a ton of chances, but the ones that there were, he stopped. And Vancouver just constantly missed the net on their best chances. Like, they just must be breaking their own clipboards in the dressing room there, Bruce, because of all their shots. But it's tough to lose that shutout. You're so close to it. It means a lot to a goalie, I believe. And the way they lost it, the puck was leaving the Oilers zone, and all of a sudden it hits the back of, I think, a Canucks player's skate, and just shoots right back into the slot area. And everyone's abandoned, because everybody thinks it's leaving the Oilers zone, and it goes rocketing back into the slot, and it's a 3-on-1 down low, and it's just a bang bang. Well, it's a bang. It's kind of a slow bang as Besser sizes things up, with Bouchard prone on the ice before him, hoping maybe someone's going to come check Besser. Never happens. He must have had it for 2 steamboats, 3 steamboats. and he picked it. That's not a guy you want to have 3 steamboats with the puck in the slot area.
I had long enough time. He had enough time with the puck for me to think, well, at least he's wasting time before he puts it in, because they were really, the clock was really down to its dying few breaths. But Bouchard, he kind of just tried to get in a lane in front, and he wound up even looking away from expecting a pass or something. And Hyman, for whatever reason, he was caught just standing still out at the blue line, thinking the play was going the other way. But to me, he needed to collapse back into the slot, and he just never did. And Besser absolutely labeled one top corner. So if that had been a tying goal, I would have been absolutely choked. But because it only cost the goalie a shutout, as a former member of the goaltenders union, I'm only somewhat choked. I mean, you want to get the shutout for sure, right?
Yeah.
You're a goalie, and you played 59 minutes and 54 seconds or whatever shutout hockey. It kind of sucks to lose it at the very, very end like that.
Hockey happens fast. And okay, what's your number?
Yeah, well, my number is related to Mikko Koskinen, and it is 934. And that is his save percentage through 5 games. He came in partway through game number 3, won it in relief, came in with the Oilers down, and he did kind of the same thing that night. He stopped every shot, and then they got a 2-goal lead late, and he let in the very last shot in the dying seconds to make it 6-5 against Anaheim. Then he went on the road. He played well in Arizona, especially early when the Oilers came out of the gate a little slow. He had a strong game in Vegas that they won 5-3. He had one bad game in Edmonton, and immediately the bandwagon jumping that was going on was just something fierce. It's like, one bad game. It's like, oh, we can't win with this guy. There's no way, And then tonight, like a veteran, cool pro that he is, he bounced back with a strong game, and he made the saves when they needed to be made, and the one at the end that was a perfect shot, but the game was essentially over by then. Vancouver had scored on that 6-on-4 when they had 2 absolutely 11-bell chances, and Koskinen stopped them both. If they score then, there's a minute and a half to go, and they've made it 2-1, and now they're buzzing. It gets like super tense at the end, and as it was, it was a minor annoyance that they scored, but the outcome of the game was, they're never going to get 2 goals in 5 seconds at the end of a game. It's just not going to happen. So he, to me, he's done the job. He played well in 4 out of 5 games, and he helped the team win each of the 4 games that he played well. And he was probably the reason they lost the one game he didn't play well. Well, 4-1, that's a decent ratio. I can take that. I think he's been good.
He has been good. I'm just checking. Markstrom has a 957 save percentage right now. And
he's let in 1 goal in his last 4 games.
Koskinen 934. Well, Mikko's going to catch him. All right. My number is 3rd. Bruce, the Edmonton Oilers are tied for 3rd in the NHL in winning percentage. Winning percentage. The Oilers have a 857 winning percentage. Only Carolina, undefeated Carolina, which is at 1,000, in Florida, which has 8 wins and one loser point.
Loss, eh?
Yeah. They just lost their head coach, of course. So the Oilers are 3rd, Bruce, 3rd in the league. And that's ahead of the expectation of anybody heading into the season. So that's a hell of a good start. Who knows where they're going to be when this all wraps up, but that's a hell of a good start. And it's great to see Edmonton and Calgary, honestly.
Calgary in first place, eh?
Back to the 80s. Here we
saw
go.
That coming.
I sure didn't. I thought that team was slow and cumbersome, but they're getting it done.
5-0 Eastern road trip, where not only did they win every game, they never trailed a game at any point.
Yeah.
Never once were even coming from behind. So they've got the old Sutter magic working for them at this point, and the Markstrom magic, more to the point. So if that guy gets hot, they could they could go on a roll for a while.
I called them Flames cumbersome, and then I thought, what does that mean? And then so I just looked it up. Large or heavy, and therefore difficult to carry or use, unwieldy. And I was thinking of like good Branson and Lucic and players
Branson
like
and Zadorov and
yeah,
Lucic.
yes. It's working though. It's working. Whatever they're doing is working. Maybe it's just Markstrom, who's also kind of cumbersome, but Koskinen is cumbersome. But he got the job done tonight. So good for Mikko. Lots of criticism of him, constant criticism of him, especially after last game, Bruce.
Can't have one bad game. You can't have one bad game.
Yeah, then it's just like it was like
get
the
rid
game.
Of him. It's no good. He should never play for us again. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but not by much.
He could have a whole throne of knives, like the Iron Throne, with the number of knives that were chucked at that guy. It was ridiculous. I mean,
yeah, I mean the winning goal against Philadelphia was bad, and it wasn't the only bad one, right? But he's a backup goalie. He's been thrust in since the starter got hurt, and he's played 4.5 games, and he's got 4 wins.
Yeah, it's contractitis, right? Some people can't get past the contract in rating the player. It just colors their vision completely, which I think is an unfair way. If you're trying to rate the true talent of hockey players, I mean, as a fan, it's fair to say that and feel that. I get it, but if you're trying to be a fair evaluator of the player, that's not the way to do it. Forget the contract. Just watch the player.
I mean, there is some legitimacy to it, but you can't just let it color every single thing. And so when the guy does play well, he should play well. He's getting paid to play well. Oh, he let in a bad goal. He's overpaid.
You can't win, right?
Tell I'm a member of the goaltenders union.
Yeah, but that
happens
be for any
skaters
player.
Too. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. It happens a lot. So fanitis, and it's certainly not limited to oil country. You hear the same thing in other markets, man. The people in Toronto that are absolutely shredding Mitch Marner. Oh man, that guy! You think he was the worst player in the history of the league? Like they're just all over the guy. And I mean, he's struggling. Well, I wonder why he's struggling, Toronto fans. Hello.
Wonder if they'd have trouble moving that contract, Marner's contract.
That's a different issue. And I mean, that's the same thing. They're weighing him against that contract, and they're not liking what they're seeing.
Oh, geez. He had 67 points in 55 games last year. I mean, this is
third in the league.
He's such an elite scorer. He's such a fantastic player.
Awesome.
I wish the Oilers could afford him, but he is getting paid a lot. One contract you never hear people, or at least not me. Maybe I blocked them all. You don't hear people complain about anymore. Is Leon Draisaitl's contract, which people bellyached about for years loudly, and that's one you don't hear people vetching about anymore. So good. He shut him up. Leon Draisaitl shut up his critics. I think he did, Bruce. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Am I wrong?
Some people, there's still some who think they should have signed him for less at the time they overpaid him. But at the time, Chiarelli saw him as a center and not a winger in the long term. And you know what? Peter Chiarelli may well have been right with that assessment. Hard it is for us to admit that Peter Chiarelli might have done something right.
Yeah, he used to get credit for the Clefbaum contract, but that's kind of not so much anymore. But that can happen with any player that can get a terrible injury. Sure. Yeah, it is bad luck. But listen, the McDavid contract and the Draisaitl contract were 2 huge things that he secured for the Edmonton Oilers franchise, and he did it in part by trading away the future for the present by bringing in a player like Lucic, for instance. Right, he was trying to win in the short term, and they did win in the short term. And after they did that, those 2 players signed long term, which was a huge moment for the Oilers. So, there was a little bit of method to the madness that he was employing, and it didn't work out in the end, that's for sure. But there was a couple good things that happened. Some good draft picks too, Bruce. Some good draft picks. Maybe I'll do a reevaluating the Peter Chiarelli era. I'm not going to touch that. He screwed up, and he misjudged the NHL. He thought heavy hockey was here to last, and he blew it.
Yeah, a lot more went wrong than right, but he wasn't like for everything. Like it wasn't like every single thing he did was terrible.
He wasn't
And
Pepe
sometimes
Freya.
the narratives, when people turn on a guy, be it a player or manager or whatever, it's all of a sudden nothing they can do will satisfy. So
Yeah. All righty, let's leave it there. You got some work ahead of you, so I'll let
I
you
do.
get at it.
Player grades to go. Hoping maybe the Aurora will kick up later tonight and I'll get a chance to see it late, but I got some work to do first, so gotta get at it.
Thanks for talking, Bruce.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.